Daniel, I want to focus with you because you're the person who is experiencing all the things that you're talking about firsthand. So can you just tell us how close to reality is the things that we heard, and where is Mango Logistics going into this?
Mango Logistics actually isn't going into this. We've been in micro warehousing for about 6 years now, so this is not new for us. I can concur with nearly everything everybody said around the panel here. We don't use automation or robotics. I haven't seen it working efficiently in very small warehouses as yet, but I'm keeping a very good eye on that.
And specifically now I'm turning to Anna, who is from BotsAndUs, and we'll play a video shortly about what exactly you do. But do you agree with Daniel that probably smaller warehouses are not necessarily the place for robotics?
I think it depends a lot because small warehouses that are tidy are definitely the space for robotics. Small warehouses that have a lot of, I would say, items just lying around and obviously continuous chaos happening, probably not. Like robotics requires a certain level of, I would say, process behind it to be able to operate efficiently. So the moment you start disrupting those processes, there might be elements where it's becoming a little bit inefficient. I would still say, though, that there's solutions that can be easily kind of tailored to fit into certain spaces and maybe kind of automating only part of the process rather than the entire warehouse. And I mean, it's probably a difference between trying to retrofit existing technology in existing warehouses versus building something from scratch. So definitely, I see that the future for micro-fulfillment is they will be built around the robotic solution rather than obviously bringing it into something that's already existing.
And Hendrik, one of the things that we were talking about in our conversations earlier was where managers do you think should look at sort of key elements of whether this is for me and how do I implement it?
Okay, I mean, it's a tough question. I guess if I had the golden answer here, then people would be knocking on my door for advice every day. But it's it's a combination of elements really. And I'm, of course, as a researcher, interested in finding that out. So first of all, I think it's a combination, of course, that companies usually run. You will have large central warehouses and then micro fulfillment centers in certain areas. So you basically have to manage that whole network. You have to look at your customer locations, population densities, of course, where you would be looking for the micro hubs. What are your competitors doing, right? Are you actually competing with someone who's successful with their micro fulfillment hubs potentially? What are they offering? I think property costs is undeniably a big issue, especially in the UK. I mean, if you think, I hear sort of square foot prices in London for warehouses, small warehouses, about £35. In the Midlands, I think it's a factor 4 essentially. Let's say Midlands versus London locations. I think a big factor as well are customer expectations. Do they actually want quick deliveries? Do they need it? And are they willing to pay extra? Because I think only a small percentage of customers are ultimately willing. They gladly take it if there's no additional expense, but they're not necessarily willing to pay extra for it. I think there's also good rationale to potentially, in some industries, for example, groceries, to combine click and collect and direct to customer fulfillment, so that you can actually maybe collect your items direct from those micro fulfillment centers, and they could be adjacent to, for example, large supermarket locations. And then also that would take care potentially of some of your returns processes, right? If people can drop off their returns as well. A few other things, I think, then maybe not as small items, but nevertheless maybe very important. Of course, we heard about environmental, social considerations. You need to segment your inventory, right? Like, what are you actually having in your micro fulfillment hubs? You're not necessarily going to have your full product portfolio in there. And then I think also an important, maybe the last aspect I want to mention, what I'm quite interested in is actually all the follow-on decisions that you need to make. So if you decide, okay, you want to invest, You want to have micro-fulfillment hubs in certain locations. So, okay, that's a strategic decision made. But what are all the follow-on decisions in terms of technical? What equipment do you need to choose now? Do you go with the Mango approach of manual, or do you go with what some of the other speakers have been suggesting to go with automation? And then that follows down all the way into your operational reality, right? All the decisions that you have to take there.
I want to turn to Daniel because I saw you were nodding, Daniel, very vividly on a few areas, specifically about the prices of space. How are you experiencing this?
We're literally when I finish this meeting, I'm just about to sign on a warehouse. It's not a micro warehouse. This is as Hendrik was mentioning, you need a hybrid with much larger warehouses for fulfillment, pick and pack, and to hold the bulk of your stock, where you would have a shuttle moving stuff between the larger warehouses and your micro warehouses. But yeah, Hendrik's very right on the price thing, and it just takes a lot longer to search, negotiate prices. When there's endless pots of money, you just sign on the dotted line. I read every clause to make sure we're not signing our life away too much. But yeah, prices is a major one. So I can't agree more. And I think there's too many people signing too quickly and paying too much at the moment. And that's driving up the price with a lot of the 10-minute delivery apps just signing off contracts, and that's fueling the market price at the moment.
Oh, and I can also see that you are also nodding to this and the automation bit. Do you think that automation and robotics can solve this problem, or at least help it a bit?
I mean, I can only speak for what we do, and I know you'll play the video in a bit, so I don't want to spoil it too much. But we mainly look after data collection, so we're not robots like the ones earlier that will pick and grab things. But our robots are tools to collect real-time data from warehouses. The number one thing we're actually focusing at the moment is space. So constantly telling each kind of warehouse manager how much space is available in the warehouse, whether that's an empty kind of cube on the rack or actually kind of a volumes going down on each of the different items. The whole idea behind that is to be able to optimize and fill every single gap on that rack, move things around when the volume becomes small enough to sit somewhere else, potentially even monetize some of the available space that some of the bigger players might have for the smaller ones, and vice versa. So space is definitely becoming more than gold, I would say. But you don't necessarily kind of have to buy more land to expand. You can kind of look at what you currently have and how do you push that to close to 100% as possible.
And as you just said, I would just play the video so people get a bit of an idea and
Thank you.
look into this perspective.
At BotsAndUs, we automate warehouse goods management with our real-time data collection technology. This is Min, our fully autonomous robot that accurately measures, tracks and finds packages in warehouses without complex infrastructure changes. Our autonomous robots capture the volume and condition of pallets of all shapes and sizes anywhere in the warehouse. They flag damaged packages or those with underreported dimensions to help recover millions in revenue. The robots navigate among people and machinery to carry the costly and labor-intensive task of inventory tracking. They scan shelves and provide immediate insight into the location and quantities of goods. We reduce the cost and time of collecting reliable inventory data by over 90% and provide daily shelf audits. This helps identify gaps or inconsistencies as they happen, driving better decisions and financial compliance. It helps to reduce revenue leakage from assets that are lost, misplaced, or non-compliant. The data is fed into the WMS, so images and videos can be analyzed instantly from anywhere. This closes the data loop, accelerates productivity, and reduces unnecessary time spent processing and tracking. Ready to go in just a few weeks with minimal upfront cost and continuous support from BotsAndUs.
Banu, I also wanted to bring you into the conversation. When you were looking at this video, do you think that this is one of the possible futures? And what are the areas where we can have problems when implementing not only these solutions, but also generally solutions for micro-fulfillment?
Sorry, who's the question to?
Banu.
Banu, sorry.
Okay. Well, Yeah, it's obvious that with the micro-fulfillment implementation, the market, the world is evolving towards more decentralized model. The warehouses are spread out and remain much closer to the end customer. So it's correct that order fulfillment, delivery times, and customer service tend to be vastly improved over the centralized model. However, the operational costs might be significantly higher and increase with the number of established locations. So we should be careful about those decisions, as mentioned previously with the companies. Correct decision models are required to be developed. Optimal solutions for definition of number of fulfillment centers and their size and where to location and allocation algorithms, optimal algorithms should be developed. Otherwise, while trying to decrease the delivery times, it should result with a really high cost. And also, while we are saying that we are diminishing the carbon emission by spreading out those warehouses, however, this time replenishment issue might come with an extra traffic and carbon emissions. So we should be careful about the definition. I mean, defining the number of micro fulfillment centers. Otherwise, it comes with really high cost.
And Daniel, one of the things is certainly in congestion and problems around access to urban areas. Have you experienced something like that, and how do you deal with it?
Absolutely. In London, this has become very prevalent. Lots of roads or side roads are getting shut off now, and they're for bikes only. So Mango's strategy has been very much to grow our electric cargo bike fleet, and they can get into all the little roads. They seem to get around a lot quicker. Depending on size, they can also use bike lanes. And one of the strategies we've built is replenishing them with a van. So the cargo bikes leave the micro warehouse in the morning, go out for their first distribution, then they meet a van, and then they replenish the goods, and they can stay out in the local areas. And we've seen a huge increase in the amount of parcels we can deliver and the locations we can get to.
One of the things we spoke in an interview we published a week ago was around how, and Fizer also touched on this, how quick are companies to try and find and to even think about investing in a more high-end solutions. Do you think this is a real problem, and what can be done?
So firstly, one thing I just wanted to add to what Daniel just said. Obviously, orchestrating all this is super interesting, because obviously you have to make sure that the items leave the bigger warehouse to the micro hubs at the right time with the right quantities, then they meet the vans where they should meet. So the kind of fuel behind all of this is that real-time data view and understanding what is where, not just from obviously what you have in the warehouse, also from what the customer needs. So obviously integrating all of those into the WMS is essential. So just wanted to touch on that, because I think it's really important, like really understanding what is moving where and how much of everything you have at a certain moment in time is essential. And I think from here, to kind of answer your question, it's that drive to efficiency and to kind of get things right the first time that is pushing more and more of our customers to reach out and want to have conversations with us. So kind of implementing any technology needs to come from a real problem that somebody's feeling day in and day out. Technology for tech's sake is no longer a thing. and for an industry that's moving at this pace as logistics is, like you can't really afford to just mess around with something cool just for the sake of it. It has to have a solution for a problem. And I feel like the existing problems that we've all kind of been touching on so far do have some sort of an automation solution to address them. And I think this is how all kind of managers should approach it. Think, okay, what are my challenges and what is out there to potentially support them?
I will, in a second, I will ask all of you to sort of do a summary on your thoughts specifically around micro-fulfillment. Before I do that, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are an independent logistics news platform. So if you're liking what you see and watch, please consider subscribing to our channel. And also, you're very well invited to our May event on sustainability and the problem with energy and power in logistics. You will receive more information about it very shortly. And now I'm turning back to Daniel with sort of a final thoughts, or if you can summarize where we are now and where do you think we will be in a year or 2 years' time?
I do think there's going to be more micro warehouses set up around urban areas and cities. I think we need to define what the customer wants in terms of e-commerce and what they're willing to pay a potential slightly more premium to receive it same day. And that's one of our main reasons for having micro warehouses, the ability to have same day delivery and also a sustainable delivery by getting closer to the client. The range of electric vans and electric cargo bikes are more suited to being close to the customer. So I can see them popping up all over the place, but there's a lot to get right. And you only get it right once with our clients, which are the B2B, and their clients might be the consumers, but you only get one time to get that right. So having the right inventory levels spread out around among the warehouses, and also having that hybrid that you have got a more economical option to store their goods outside of town and then with a daily replenishment. So yeah, I can see them popping up around town. I just hope that we and everybody else gets the right micro warehouse. It's all very well using the term micro warehouse, but I've seen some dark stores tucked away into residential areas or not clean, etc. So finding the right micro warehouse is imperative.
And Banu, how about you? What are your sort of final thoughts or summary of the topic?
Yeah, it's obvious that not only the warehousing sector is evolving towards more decentralized management, but the whole world, I believe, the management issues are evolving towards more decentralized, more smart way of management. So while, as I mentioned previously, while deciding, it's obvious that micro-fulfillment centers will increase even in United Kingdom in the future, but we have to be careful again while deciding how many and at which size micro-fulfillment centers to establish. More, I think more smart algorithms and more cost-benefit analytics should be developed towards that. From a researcher perspective, I would contribute in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Hendrik, how about you?
Yeah, very good. So first of all, I think we are in especially exciting times when it comes to logistics and warehousing, which is great, especially when you're a researcher and like me, and you don't necessarily have to make all the financial decisions immediately. But what I find especially exciting at the moment are all the technology options that are coming on the market. You have your traditional automation solutions like your shuttle systems, ASRS systems, and so forth. But then, of course, you have companies such as BotsAndUs that are offering very, very unique solutions that are coming into the market. And so I think what decision makers, and this is what I'm looking at really, what decision makers will be focusing on is a solution that, of course, keeps the costs low, that solves their problems, for example, if it's human labor problems and so forth, but that also gives them the greatest amount of flexibility and scalability, right? I mean, this is, of course, where robotics come in very, very nicely, because you can just, add one more robot, right? Traditional automation is very static. With robots, you have a lot more flexibility and scalability. And yeah, this is, those decision considerations, I think, are what managers are grappling with. And this is very exciting to find out what they should do.
Okay, and Oana, finally with you, what is your summary?
I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier, like we're not necessarily in the business of robotics, but more in the business of data. And I think like Banu said, data is at the core of kind of organizing the world of micro-fulfillment, because you have to get things right in terms of where do you place them, how much stock do you put in them, and how quickly do you scale everything. So I kind of absolutely agree with that point, and that would be the number one thing I would encourage everyone to do, is start with the data and then obviously use it to inform all the decisions.
Thank you very much, all of you. And also many thanks to the people who were watching and who asked different questions. You will receive more information about the event, as also added information from the speakers a bit later. Thank you very much all again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.